back once again. This is Chris Report, and he assured me that St. Simon's down in Boulders. Folks, this is Chris Wyatt reporting from South Africa. Hey folks, welcome back. This is Chris live in central Pennsylvania on Thursday evening, December 5th, 2024. Let's see how the sound is. December 5th, 2024. Let's see how the sound is. Sounds pretty good. Welcome back to the program. And tonight, a bit of fireworks this morning in Washington, D.C. on Capitol Hill as the acting Secret Service Director, Ronald Rowe, explodes at a Republican lawmaker after a Republican lawmaker questions why it took him so long to respond to the shooting in Butler, Pennsylvania. Now, of course, remember that he was the deputy director. So the Republican lawmaker, Pat Fallon from Texas, asked him, well, did you go the day after the shooting? No. Did you go the next day? No. Did you go 7 days after? No. When did you go? I went after I was appointed director. He says, yeah, but you were deputy director. Why didn't you go before that? I was handling the emergency back here in Washington. Really? Just shows the lack of oversight and the lack of commitment from the leadership of the Secret Service. An organization that used the Trump assassination attempt as an excuse to demand a nearly 100% budget increase. This is a shameful organization that fails to uphold its responsibility. And I'm sure a lot of Secret Service agents will take exception to my comments, but I'm not talking about the behavior of the agents themselves, although the ones in Butler certainly were suspect, as were the ones in Doral in Florida. Their conduct was bizarre, to say the least. Who doesn't actually walk the perimeter of a site where the president's going to be? It's a pretty simple perimeter to walk. You walk around. It took a observant citizen to notice that something was amiss. Otherwise, Trump might have been killed in the second attempt. Who knows how many other attempts are being hidden from the public? Well, the Secret Service has engendered zero confidence. Its former director was clearly a DEI hire. This guy here who has some chops, but really has a thin skin. And we're going to see that. I'm going to play from C-SPAN the footage today of this congressional hearing, and I'm going to comment as we go through it. But before that, we do that, let's take a look at the actual news stories that have come out as a consequence of this story today. So the Washington Post starts us off here with these events. A shouting match erupts as lawmakers grill acting Secret Service director. An otherwise substantive hearing about Secret Service shortfalls after the attempted assassination of President-elect Trump devolved into a shouting match with good reason. This man has a very thin skin and cannot handle criticism and can't answer simple questions. Also, he is not accountable. He keeps talking about how people be held accountable. But ladies and gentlemen, the Butler assassination attempt was when? In June or July? July. August, September, October, November. It's now December, 5 months later, and we still know nothing about the shooter. They scrubbed it. They covered up the crime scene. They tried to hide it from the public. They've been anything but transparent. And then we have another public assassination attempt on him in Florida, and we know next to nothing about that. Next to nothing. The acting Secret Service Director, Ronald Rowe, testified before the House committee today. MSNBC. The Hill reports Secret Service leader erupts at GOP lawmaker over 9/11 questioning. The fact that they feel the need to mention the political party of a member of Congress is what's so reprehensible here. As a member of Congress, look, I have had to answer questions from members of Congress. I've had to go on the Hill. I had to talk to even this annoying, snotty-nosed staffers that work for Russ Feingold from Wisconsin when he was a senator. Arrogant asshats who knew nothing about Africa and tried to dress me down when I knew more about Africa than they could ever imagine. But anyway, he's trying to tell me how it is. They didn't like the answers, didn't like the fact, didn't like my analysis, which, by the way, was 100% correct. 100% correct. They just didn't like it. And so, too bad for them. But when you deal with members of Congress, no matter how rude and snarky, disrespectful asshats they are, there is a decorum. It's like when you work for a boss in the military who's an ass, you don't tell him to get screwed. You don't yell back at him. That's not how things work. That's not how it works with public servants. Your job is to answer the questions of the members of Congress. The people elected them. Whether you like them or not doesn't matter. They are senior and superior in rank to you. So get over yourself, Mr. Rowe. And we're going to watch this confrontation here shortly. But let me run through some of these other news story. This one from WIS-10, acting Secret Service Director speaks on accountability. Except there is no accountability. No accountability at the Secret Service. U.S. Secret Service has no accountability whatsoever. And it's a miracle they haven't got any other protectees killed with their irresponsible, lackadaisical, lack of focus, and just shameful conduct. Lawmaker accuses acting Secret Service director of 9/11 publicity stunt and auditioning to keep his post in tense exchange. Well, I can tell you this. If Ronald Rowe doesn't resign in the next 2 or 3 days, I guarantee you that Donald Trump will fire him on day one. He's gone. He's gone. He's gone. Ain't going to happen. He's gone. Unbelievable. And he will take the fall, unlike Kimberly, what's her name, who's gone now, the DEI hire who escaped out of town. What a clown she was. Trump assassination attempt hearing goes off the rails as shouting match erupts between acting Secret Service director and GOP representative. This from the New York Post. Secret Service chief and GOP lawmaker erupt in shouting match at Trump hearing from CBS News. And old Fox News even got into this one, folks. Fox News. There you go. Trump assassination attempt, Secret Service acting director reveals numerous changes agency has implemented. Well, that's true, but that's not what the story of the hearing was. And we're going to skip the 2.5-hour hearing to show you the fireworks in just a few moments. Head of Secret Service and congressman get into shouting match at hearing. Yep, here's another one. This one's from the New York Times. And finally, let's take a look at who we're talking about here. Acting Director Ronald Rowe. Effective July 23rd, after she was fired, he became the acting director of the Secret Service. He's responsible for successfully executing the agency's integrated mission of protection investigations by leading a diverse workforce composed of 7,800 special agents, uniforms, division officers, technical law enforcement officers, administrative, professional, and technical personnel, all of whom cannot accomplish the most basic of tasks, protecting the president. Yeah. Prior to his appointment, he served as deputy director of the Secret Service from April of 2023. So this guy, 25-year career with the Secret Service. In the Secret Service, he was chief of staff to the director in 2021, deputy assistant director of the Office of Protective Operations, 2018-21, deputy assistant director, Office of Intergovernmental Legislative Affairs, 2017-22. So he's been a senior leader in the Secret Service since at least 2017, just 18 years after he joined the organization. He used to be a law enforcement official prior to that. He graduated University of Maryland, College Park, and Lynn University in Boca Raton. So, and who did he go up against? Well, Representative Pat Fallon from Texas. Fallon is an American businessman and politician representing Texas' 4th congressional district since 2021. He has been pretty much a career politician since he entered politics in 2013. So now he's been there since 2013. An Air Force veteran. He left the Air Force after 4 years as a second lieutenant. I'm not sure how you accomplish that. Everybody makes first lieutenant their first 3 years, so I'm not really sure what happened there. But let's take a look at this here. Standing by to hear what the colonel has to say. Hey, Courtney, how's it going? Hope you're doing well out there. So let's go ahead, and this is Representative Glenn Ivey from Maryland, from Laurel, Greenbelt. This is right next to Fort Meade, area I lived in when I lived in Maryland. So he was not my representative. It was Ben Cardin was the representative at the time. Anyway, let's take a look at this, okay? I'll get myself up on the screen here in just a moment, and we're going to listen to what is said here by, this is very explosive, folks. This is very explosive. Get ready for fireworks right here. This is crazy. All right, here we go. All right, so I'm going to stop it a couple of times as we go along because this is just bat crap crazy, folks. Here we go.
Pick up on what Representative Lee raised a moment ago. This isn't really to you, actually. This is to my former colleagues.
This isn't what we're going to see. The fireworks is the next person.
I recognize that in ongoing criminal investigations, there's a reluctance to turn over information too soon because it can undermine the investigation. You can tip off defendants and targets and the like. So you want to be careful about that. And I understand.
I'm sorry. What defendants do we have in the assassination attempt in Butler? The assassin is dead. Are you implying a criminal conspiracy, Representative Ivey? Were there other people involved with the young man who attempted to murder Donald Trump? Because there's no need to worry about tipping off suspects when you've already shot dead the assailant.
But I must say, too, that there's some information that we didn't get, and she outlined some of that didn't seem to be connected to an ongoing criminal investigation, and I thought that we should have had access to that. And I'll note this as well. I've done some previous investigations, the Whitewater hearings, for example, when I was a staffer many years ago, where we were able to communicate with the independent counsel on an ongoing basis. And we did that in the wake of the Iran-Contra disaster.
Okay. Iran-Contra, 87, Whitewater, 1990s. Representative Glenn Ivey is a permanent political creature. He's contributing nothing of any value to this country. He spent his entire life, like Ben Cardin and like most of these clowns, in politics, either on the Hill as a staffer, like those three little clowns behind him who are desperate to become famous and become members of Congress in their own right someday down the road. They're filling their resumes right now by being little bitches and running around and getting water and handing treats to these members of Congress. This is how the system works. Hey, the Sixth Sense. He is a joke on the American people, and we're going to see him in just a moment here. Many of the corrupt officials follow the same path only because they see it works. Exactly. And that's what's going on here. So we'll get, let's continue on here.
Where they immunized Ollie North, compelled him to testify, Department of Justice then ended up having to dismiss the case. It was thrown out of court.
Why are we getting a history lesson from Representative Glenn Ivey? This is supposed to be a question and answer session for the acting director of the Secret Service to find out why they fucked up and let the president nearly be assassinated. Instead, we're getting a history lesson so Glenn Ivey can show us how smart and erudite he is. Oh, look at me. I'm Glenn Ivey. I've been on the Hill since 1987. I know everything. I know where the bodies are buried. Yes. Thank you very much, Glenn. Go back to your corner now.
Because of the information sharing that took place. But even in the wake of that, Congress was able to work with the independent counsel and it can with the Department of Justice in making sure that we get the information that we need to handle these kinds of situations.
So what you see behind the representative are three nobodies, three absolute nobodies. Now, I'm not picking them as individuals, the two young ladies and the young man. They're nobodies. They want to be somebodies. So they'll lick the boots as part of the process, and then back in the day, it was late 70s, early 80s, there were pages and there were boys. They'd take it up the backside, and drop to their knees from members of Congress. Remember that congressional page nonsense? The homosexuals in Congress who abused the pages, congressional page. Remember that? Oof, boy, that was something.
Because this is about as serious as it gets from the standpoint of what we're tasked to do.
Yeah, you got that right, Representative Ivey. Finally, you're on to something here. This is about as serious as it gets. The president.
This is extremely important work. We would need to make sure that our elections are controlled by ballots and not bullets, and this was relevant here. But thank you for what you've done and the work you've continued to do, the direction you're taking the Secret Service in. Mr. Chairman, thank you for
the direction he's taking the Secret Service in. He's not taking any direction. They're getting hidebound. Rumors coming out of D.C. today are that the Secret Service is trying to Trump-proof themselves, and they're trying to put forward demon rat members of the Secret Service to undermine the Trump presidency from within the Secret Service. Those are rumors today. Not substantiated. It's reported on Fox News and a couple other outlets reporting that tonight. I have no sources to indicate that, but it doesn't surprise me at all. All right, so here we go. Now the fireworks, ladies and gentlemen. Now the fireworks.
Allowing me to run over. And I thank all of you, all my colleagues here in the staff.
On the far end of the white shirt is going to be
that you've been able to do.
Representative Fallon.
Thank you, Mr. Ivey. Now we recognize Mr. Fallon from Texas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the work that you and Ranking Member Rowe and the rest of the committee has done, and certainly our staff. Mr. Rowe, would you agree that the protection that President Trump was provided on the 13th of July was wholly and tragically negligent? The site plan was abysmal to the point of derelict. And on the 13th of July in Butler, Pennsylvania, the United States Secret Service not only failed President Trump, but Corey Comparatori and the American people in historic fashion.
I would.
All right, so we're off to a good start. Representative Fallon has hit this right on the head. That is exactly what happened on the 13th of July. Now, let's see what goes from here. It gets really hot very quickly.
In the months leading up to July 13th, who was the director of the Secret Service?
Kimberly Cheatham.
Okay. Other than
Diversity hire.
Director Cheadle, who was the most senior Secret Service agent?
He was.
In the agency? That would be me. I was the
Correct.
deputy director.
In the months leading up to the July of 24, were you made aware of highly credible intelligence that a serious and grave threat to President Trump's life from an adversarial nation state? There was a very serious threat.
In this open setting, Congressman, I can't discuss what...
Yes, you can. We all know, shithead, that Iran threatened the president. You've already disclosed it. See, this is bullshit in this open setting. No, this is nonsense. You can disclose it. We know it. You've already told us in the press that Iran made an attempt on the president's life. You've already arrested Iranian agents for it. So don't sit there and tell us you can't tell us. Now, what he's trying to say is that he can't indicate that in the months ahead of time. But we know he knew in the months ahead of time. This is why people don't trust law enforcement. This is why people don't trust intelligence sources. As an intelligence officer of 3+ decades, I can tell you that this is bullshit equivocating. This is unacceptable. This guy should be fired for this nonsense alone.
I was or was not aware of.
Well, the former Director Cheadle said she was
Well, it's like a freaking, spy movie. I can neither confirm nor deny, and if I told you, I'd have to kill you. What a bunch of nonsense.
aware. So I would imagine, by extension, you were aware.
You
said in open session that.
I would point to Director Cheadle's.
All right, so you were aware. So we have a unique circumstance here because we had a former president.
So he just said that Director Cheadle said that was the case about the attempt on Trump's life, the threat from Iran. He just said Cheadle publicly disclosed that. But he refuses to answer. He says, well, I will refer to Director Cheadle's comment. Seriously? Seriously?
United States, who is the leading candidate at that time to be the next president of the United States, and he will be now that we know. And he was being threatened by a foreign nefarious nation state because of actions he took while he was president of the United States. Very unique circumstances.
Yep.
So, being that you were aware of these unique circumstances, did President Trump, was he provided a security detail akin to what a sitting president would receive?
At that time.
At that time, no, because they determined that he wasn't important enough. They also determined that RFK Jr. as a presidential candidate wasn't entitled to protection detail, even though his life was threatened. These are scumbags of the highest order. They have an obligation and responsibility. Biden got full presidential detail when he was running against Trump. This is utter nonsense.
At that time, he was not.
He was not. Would you
Why?
agree that if there was a counter-surveillance unit there in Butler on the 13th, he would have been safer?
First thing I said when I saw what happened in Butler, I said, where was the counter-surveillance team? Go back. Where was the counterintelligence assessment? Where were the snipers on the roof? Why wasn't the roof cleared? Why wasn't the roof access blocked? Why wasn't someone in the water tower? All questions I ask on the 13th of July.
I think if there was a counter-surveillance unit advance that was on the ground, it could have aided the advance team in identifying the AGR.
I think that 12-year-old boys playing cowboys and Indians could have identified the threat had they been on site in Butler, Pennsylvania. You didn't need a counter-surveillance team, acting director Rowe. My goodness.
Would have been safer. President Trump would have been safer. Yeah, okay. I don't think this would have even occurred, but be that as it may.
Agreed.
Did the president's detail request a CSU, to your knowledge?
I'm not aware of a request for CSU.
Now, was the threat from the nefarious nation state disseminated to agents in the field and in the protective details?
I'm just pausing, Congressman, because I'm trying to walk a tightrope here in an open setting.
Oh, okay. So you're dancing around the facts. It's a simple question. Were the agents that protected the president aware that there was a credible threat against the president of the United States? Forget the foreign threat, that there was a credible threat. Just answer that question. And he can't do it. Watch him dance.
What I can tell you is that the Secret Service provided assets on that day for a particular.
What I can tell you, sir, is that the folks that are whistleblowing.
Here we go. Here we go. Now it gets hot, folks. Yeah. He's going to try to dance around. He's trying to say that the folks on the ground, well, no. But Representative Fallon is not going to let him get away with this. And it gets super hot here in a moment. 6 Cents says, in my opinion, it can't be by chance it conveniently left the absolute prime spot for the sniper left unguarded. Well, it has to be the biggest incompetence in the history of humankind, or it was intentional. You figured it out.
And informing some members of Congress say that they were not aware of this threat. And that's what I'm getting at with being proactive.
So what he's talking about here is that the whistleblowers within the Secret Service have come forward and told members of Congress that they were not informed. The detail protecting President Trump was never informed that there was a credible threat against his life. That's unconscionable. That is unconscionable. People should be on federal charges for this failure.
And showing leadership is, we know for a fact that there was no CSU in Butler. Was there a full CAT team there?
There was not.
No. full CAT team, 6 members, and there were 2 there. So
Wow.
you knew of the threat. You didn't disseminate to the field and the protective details. You didn't. President Trump didn't have a protection that was akin to a sitting president. He didn't have the CSU. He had only the third of the CAT team. So that's that kind of ineptitude and inaction and complacency and.
And it's getting hot here in a second, when he's going to show off because he's going to defend his pride. Oh, I was there in New York. Oh, I was honoring the fallen Secret Service. Shut up. Shut up. This guy, not Representative Fallon, Mr. Rowe. Here we go.
Neglect that really, quite frankly, is as telling as it is chilling.
Indeed it is.
Had it not been for a very blessed, fortuitous, and a happenstance of a perfectly timed turn of the head,
Yep.
President Trump would have lost his life that day.
Exactly.
Now, this is another thing that concerns me. We report to our constituents, and instead of really after this happened, did you go the next day to Butler, Pennsylvania on the 4th?
So before we get to, not to play conspiracy theorist, but what date did Biden drop out of the election? Because isn't it strange that he had the horrible, horrible debate, then the assassination fails to kill President Trump, and then he withdrew from the race?
14th of July?
I did not.
Okay. Did you go that week?
Nope.
I did not.
The FBI held that site secure for 5 days as an active crime scene.
It did.
They released it back to the
And he never went.
owners on the 18th. And you did not visit. And when did you finally visit the site?
I visited about a day after I was appointed.
So July 24th? Cheadle came in July 22nd. She got skewered and roasted by the Democrats and Republicans on the Oversight Committee, of which I sit on. She resigned the next day. And then only that day did you go.
I'll take your word for it, Congressman.
Why'd you wait 9 days? 11 days?
Good
Why
question.
did I wait 9 days?
Good
Director
question.
of the FBI went to the site. Why didn't you go?
Congressman, I think I was appointed July 23rd.
It's not the
and I was
question.
there on the
It's not the
24th or
question.
25th.
But you were the second most senior member of the Secret
Exactly.
Service. You could have gone.
And I was managing from here the crisis. We actually
Okay, so you didn't go.
dispatched.
Got it. Did you call the, you were managing the crisis?
I'm sorry, managing the crisis. What crisis were you managing? The exposure of the Secret Service as complicit in the assassination attempt of the president, or your incompetence? Which is it? What crisis was there? The president survived despite your ineptitude, and you refused to go to Butler. Why? To give them time to scrub the scene?
You just said, did you call the detail that night on July 13th that was protecting President Trump?
On that night, they were operational, sir.
You did not. Okay. Did
I
you
did
call him
not.
the next day?
No, I did not.
Okay. When did you finally talk to him?
I spoke to them when they arrived in Milwaukee.
So 4 days later, July 17th. Does that sound about right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you waited 4 days. And when we were talking earlier, a couple months ago, this is an epic failure. We all agree on that. And instead of really focusing on the egregious errors and correcting the incompetence and improving the doctrine and changing the culture, there was a massive appropriations request. We know that you have 8,000 employees. We know.
Yeah, so instead of fixing the Secret Service, this is what they did. They came back and demanded a near doubling of their budget. Why do you reward someone for failure? That's like putting money into a business that's going bankrupt. It's stupid.
Know that they have a $3.1 billion budget, and you asked for $2 billion additional dollars. What sticks in our craw is when we report to our constituents, we have to say, hey, this federal agency failed epically, and then they wanted to almost double their budget. How much would it have cost to put somebody on that water tower?
Yep.
How much would it have cost to have drones that were actually functioning that
Yep.
day? How much would it have cost to have an ether cable to where your anti-drone technology would have worked?
All of that would have cost less than $5,000. Less than $5,000. Drones that are functioning, an agent or a sniper team up on the tower or a spotter team up on the tower, and then an Ethernet cable, all less than $5,000. That's how little they valued Donald Trump's life.
How much would it have costed in a walkthrough with local law enforcement to secure the AGR site or put cameras on that roof?
Why weren't they walking through with law enforcement, and why did they exclude law enforcement, and why weren't they not in direct communication with local law enforcement? How is it possible that when we run a truckers rally out of Hagerstown, Maryland, every trucker's in communication by citizen band radio and by brick radios, all the organizers are able to talk to each other all the time? and reach somebody instantaneously. Why is that possible? Yet the Secret Service goes to Butler, Pennsylvania, and isn't in contact with local law enforcement officials. How is that even possible? How is it there was no rehearsal? How do you not have a communications rehearsal? What fucking kind of morons are in the Secret Service? We don't pull that shit in the Army. You do rehearsals. You do drills. You do pre-combat checks. You run through it all again. You have briefings, you have convoy briefings, you have operational site briefings, and you rehearse and you prepare. What kind of Keystone cops are these clowns?
Or put agents on that roof. Or have your snipers have iPads. Or have one command post instead of two. Or cordon off the damn AGR.
Okay, he's got a chart here with to the side. It's going to show in a moment. It's the stuff that, the things that you need, like, caution tape and signs put up there, how little it would have cost to protect the president's life. A lot less than I estimated.
Our complex, 17 acres, that would have cost $2 billion. And in fact, with caution tape, signs, posts, and stakes, it would have run about $410 because we ran through it. Let's add it down to zero. Say it's $4,000. It's not $2 billion.
Yep.
So I got another question for you.
Here we go.
You recognize this photo?
This is it. This is where they lose their minds. Okay. All right. This is a 9/11 event. Bloomberg, Trump. There's J.D. Vance. There's creepy, the Crypt Keeper from Chuck Schumer from New York, and Vice President Harris. And behind Vice President Harris is Deputy Director Rowe. Now acting director Rowe. So this is where it gets hot, folks. This is where it gets hot.
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. Was that the remembrance of September 11th?
It was.
Was it in New York?
It was at Ground Zero.
Okay. Who's usually at an event like this closest to the President of the United States, security-wise?
The sack of the detail.
Special agent.
Special agent in charge is usually the person close. But guess who's close to the president? It's not special agent in charge.
In charge of the detail. Were you the special agent in charge of the detail that
Nope.
day?
Actually, let me address this.
Oh, here we go. Oh, yeah. Look at this. Look at the arrogance coming out in his face. Yes, I call Chucky Schumer the Crypt Keeper. He is death warmed over. Creepy bastard. He and Mitch McConnell deserve each other. They should get a room. Yeah, so watch the arrogance now. This is where it gets super hot. It was 11:04 Eastern Standard Time when this went off earlier today. That's 12 hours ago. Here we go. Now it gets hot.
Would you please, staff, leave that? Oh, no, leave that one up with the circle around me. Thank you. So actually, Congressman, what you're not seeing is the sack of the detail out of the picture's view. And that is the day where we remember the more...
Here we go. This reminds me of Alec Baldwin in The Hunt for Red October. Rashid Jashan, a U.S. agent who sacrificed his life. Remember that arrogant asshat character that he played in The Hunt for Red October? Remember that? He was playing Jack Ryan, I think it was. He was just his total ass in that thing. Alec Baldwin. This reminds me of that. We were recognizing the fallen Secret Service. He gets all indignant. Indignant. He gets indignant here. Yeah, he could be indigent, but he's indignant. He gets indignant. Why? Because he's wrong. And so he tries to posture and fake virtue signal. And then Fallon doesn't accept it, but Fallon's losing his voice, so it doesn't quite go off as well as it should. But here we go. All right. Pull out the popcorn, folks. It's going to get hot right now.
3,000 people that have died on 9/11. I actually responded to Ground Zero.
Well, goody for you. I was deployed overseas, you shithead. What's your point? We all had a role on 9/11. Mine was abroad in Africa. What's your point? Are you a hero because you responded?
I was there going through the ashes of the World Trade Center. I was there at Fresh Kills.
I'm not asking you that. I'm asking you,
Congressman.
were you the special agent in charge?
To show respect
You were not.
for a Secret Service member that died on 9/11.
All right, that is wildly inappropriate. This man should be sanctioned for his conduct. You do not behave that way. I don't care how poorly they treat you, the members of Congress. You do not respond in this fashion. This man is 100% wrong and should tender his resignation today, the 5th of December, 2024, for his conduct before that committee. That is unacceptable. Unacceptable. Unacceptable.
Do not invoke 9/11 for political purposes.
I'm sorry. Do not invoke 9/11 for political purposes. That's what he's doing. He's auditioning for keeping that job. That's what that photograph is about. He had no business being there. No business being there. Nobody knows who the director. Did you know that Kimberly Cheadle was the director of the Secret Service before Butler, Pennsylvania? I didn't. And I'm pretty switched on and in tune with what the U.S. government's doing, including the intelligence community and law enforcement. But I was unfamiliar with Cheadle. Why? Because I have no need to know who she is. The Secret Service is supposed to be in the background. You don't know who they are. They don't show up at photo opportunities to be seen in the picture. What a crock. If he wants to honor the fallen from 9/11 Secret Service agents, he does it after they leave or before they arrive. Not in a photo op like this. This guy is a lying sack of horse manure. And he's a disgrace. He's a disgrace.
I'm not. I'm invoking this.
You are, sir.
Gentlemen,
And you are out of order.
I would like to ask him a question. Please.
You are out of
I'm out of order. You're out of order. Gee, the crickets. Unbelievable. Roe must go.
line,
Order.
Congressman.
Don't
Way
try
out
to
of
bully
line.
me. I am an elected
Don't try to bully me.
member of Congress, and I'm asking you a serious question, and you are
I
playing
am a public
politics.
servant who has served this nation, and you.
It doesn't make you special, dickhead. You public servant, who gives a flying flip? You're an arrogant asshat covering up an attempted assassination of the President of the United States. Look at the arrogance and the finger pointing from this shitbird right here. Resign now. Resign. You don't talk to members of Congress like that, no matter how stupid they are. You want to make jokes about people outside that committee? That's a different story. You do not do that there. You do not tarnish our nation's democracy with your arrogance and your shitty attitude. This guy must go. Roe must go. Look at it pointing at a member of Congress. I was falsely accused of disrespecting a member of Congress in Liberia. Not by a member of Congress, but by an arrogant asshat staffer whose feelings were hurt. Because I told the truth, not what they wanted to hear. Now, this staffer, by the way, was a military person who got fired for her conduct not too long after that. I was a major waiting to pin on a lieutenant colonel, and she was a lieutenant colonel, and she dressed me down in front of members of Congress. And there's nothing I could do about it. So I stood there and took it. You suck it up, Buttercup. You suck it up. I dealt with that. I accepted it. And then other people involved in the trip, including a member of Congress, wrote back to me, and I even got a phone call, and they apologized for the conduct of that lieutenant colonel. But you don't say anything right there. You just absorb it. That's what a professional does. Not this whiny little biatch right here. Roe must go. Unbelievable. Who does he think he is? Look at this. Who does he think he is?
Don't answer the
Time
question.
on our day, on our country's darkest day.
Committee will come to order.
On our country's darkest day was not 9/11. It was December 7th, 1941. Well, that or January 20th of 2021 when Joe Biden was sworn in, take your pick. But it wasn't 9/11. We weren't broken by 9/11. But we were drug into a global cataclysm by December 7th, 1941 by Imperial Japan. Look at that face. Look at that contempt he has for members of Congress. He must go. He must go.
Criticize it.
Committee will come to order. I'm asking you serious questions for the American people, and they're very simple. They're not trick questions. Were you the special agent in charge that
No,
day?
I wasn't. I was there
No,
representing
Mr.
the
Chairman,
United
I'm
States
just
Secret
asking you,
Service.
Again, he is stuck. The question was very simple. Were you there as the agent in charge? No. I was there representing secret. No, that's not your job. It's not your job. Show me the photos of previous years of 9/11 with the director of the Secret Service in the photograph at the memorial ceremony. Please. Maybe exist. Please show me.
Sir,
Mr. Fallon, your
and
time's
did not
expired.
affect protective
I
operations.
know why you were
Time's
there.
expired.
Because you wanted to be visible, because you are auditioning for this
I was
job.
there to
that
pay
you're not gonna
respect for a
get
fallen
till
member of
January
this
20th.
agency.
Ooh, he said you were there because you were auditioning for this job, which you're not going to get. Damn Skippy. And he shouldn't last out the term. He should be relieved right now. Right now.
You endangered
You are
President
out of
Biden's
line,
life.
Congressman.
You endanger the president's life. Fallon is upset with good reason. Now, people are going to say, that's why they say Republican, it's just theatrics. It's not theatrics. Fallon is right. If this was Biden, he should be just as angry. They failed, and he's covering his ass, making shit up. Unbelievable.
President
out of
Harris's
line.
life because you put those agents out of position.
Mr.
Did you have a
Chairman.
radio with
Mr.
you?
Fallon,
Did
your
you wear a
time
vest?
has
Did you have a
expired.
weapon?
Mr.
No.
I did, sir, and you are out of line.
Mr. Chairman,
I'm sorry. He's telling the congressman he's out of line. You're out of line, asshat. Resign. Resign. Go hang out with Chad Chronister. He likes masks.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
please.
All right. And we are back
You're
in
a
order
bully.
now. We are back in order now.
Thank you.
Mr. Moscowitz, you are now recognized for 5 minutes.
Wow.
Okay.
Congressman?
How you doing?
Good, sir.
All right. So, look, the reason emotions are high is because we almost did have a former president, and now the president-elect, literally almost killed live on television.
Yep. That's right. Even though Fox wasn't covering it. Representative Jared Moscowitz, a Democrat from Florida's 23rd District, covering Fort Lauderdale, Boca Raton, and Coral Springs, speaking like an adult in the room. Not that Representative Fallon was out of line, but trying to lower the temperature. This is a 2 hours and 33-minute broadcast.
And there were 2 pieces of luck that day, one
Yep.
bad, one good. The Secret Service's luck ran out that day because the systemic failures didn't start on July
Correct.
13th.
Correct.
They were probably occurring.
For
and
15
the luck
years.
ran out that day. But luckily, President Trump moved
Was
his
lucky.
head and he wasn't killed.
Yep.
I can't imagine where we would be if we didn't have that second piece of luck. And so everyone here brings their
Look at the creepy looking kid over his left shoulder there. He looks like a vampire.
different experience. I'm a former emergency management director. I know disasters when I see them, right? And July 13th was an absolute disaster. There's just no question about that. And I've done after action reviews, and you go through the things, in your response to a hurricane and what failed, and then you're like a general fighting the last war. We're going to fix the things that failed that day. But really, you got to do more of a holistic approach, not just look at the things that failed that day, the things that aren't working in general, bigger picture, and not just fix just those specific things. I also am familiar about what it's like to come into an agency and clean up someone else's mess, which is what you're doing. And
Except that's not what he's doing. You're very kind, Representative Moskowitz. You're far too kind. Ron Rowe was the deputy director. I just ran through all the jobs. He's been in senior leadership at the Secret Service since 2017. He's not cleaning up somebody else's mess. He's cleaning up his own mess, and he's covering it up. 5 months later, we have no information on the assassin, no information on why the failures occurred. None. I've given you the reasons why. On the day of, go back and watch my analysis on the other channel and watch what I had to say. Everything I said was spot on. It's not like it's rocket science, but as an intelligence official and security official and former Army officer and a 36-year veteran of uniformed services and a security consultant, I can tell you that these morons are worse than Keystone Cops. And this was just bound to happen eventually. It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace. I would hire G4S to cover me, or I don't know, what's that guy? Tyrus or whatever his name is, the clown that's on the Gutfeld show. Hire him to be your bodyguard, or get The Rock, but he probably wants to be president himself.
And so I applaud you for that, right? You've been handed, a ship with a hole in it, and it's taken on water, and you got to.
He's been handed a ship with a hole in it because he put acid along the bow to let it eat through. He's part of the problem. This guy's got to go, and he should have resigned today. At least the South Korean defense minister had the moral fortitude to resign after the stupid martial law declaration. This clown doesn't. Look how long it took Cheeto to resign.
Figure out how to fix the hole and get the water out of the boat at the same time. And so I applaud you for stepping up.
I do not.
I want to talk about one of the comments that multiple people made on this committee, and it's for your agency and it's for other agencies, which is that a lot of time we get stuck in this process thing. Oh, because of process, we can't communicate with the public, or we're not going to communicate with Congress because of process. Agencies need to change with the times. Things are different now. And when you guys don't put out information, that vacuum gets filled with conspiracy theories. We talk about restoring faith in the institutions.
There is
Yes,
no faith.
You know, government needs to work. People need to see that
It doesn't.
they're competent. But at the same time,
They
we're
aren't.
not going to be able to restore that faith if the agencies aren't communicating with the public and instead are getting conspiracy theories online.
Not conspiracy theories. It's a cover-up. There's no reason. I am a federal law enforcement official. I have done countless investigations, criminal investigations, counterintelligence investigations. This is garbage. I'm also an intelligence analyst. This is garbage. There is no reason, no justification whatsoever that we do not have answers at this stage. We should have answers within 2 weeks, not 5 months later. No excuse, no justification. It is a cover-up. Why are they covering it up? Why are they covering it up?
Because no one else is giving them information. And that's going to be a push-pull that you, DOJ, the FBI are going to have to deal with in today's world of communications. Other people will tell your story for you, and it will be false if you don't tell it.
Actually, I would disagree. It's likely to be false if they tell the story. They've had 5 months to come up with a story. Yeah, exactly. I can't stand it. Moscowitz is being far too kind, but this is a Democrat. This is a Democrat. He's trying to walk a fine line.
I want to talk about two specific things, and then I want to get to page 7 of the report, which for me is the most important. The 9/11 Commission recommended fixing the comms issue by creating a network. AT&T, FirstNet, I think Verizon has one as well.
Not just that, but we were forced to create something called the National Counterterrorism Center. And we had to give up intelligence analysts from the intelligence agencies to go to work there. And they typically sent young guys they didn't want, who weren't experienced, or they're retreads and dead enders. And that's who staffed the National Counterintelligence Center when we started after 9/11. Yeah, there is no accountability. Our government is corrupt to the core. We are embarrassing. We are a banana republic. And it is time to not get a broom, but to get a fire hose and just hose the deck off. Hose the deck off and get rid of these clowns too. They got to go too. And shame on you people for reelecting these guys back to office.
We knew about the comm failures that day, the throttling the radios, people on different systems. And yet, 20 years, 25 years later, your agency is still...
Yeah. This is apples and oranges there, Moscowitz. You're not even talking about the same thing. What happened on 9/11 is the cell phone towers were saturated. We have solved that problem many years ago. That's why on January 6th, I couldn't communicate on my cell phone because I'm not a priority user. And because a million people were in D.C., they shut down our ability to broadcast or download data. Only get fed data. We couldn't upload data. So you know what you're talking about, Moscowitz. You don't know what you're talking about. So go sit down back in your little Florida corner and you just try to stop apologizing for these frauds. Okay? You know what you're talking about. The problem in Butler wasn't saturated networks. There was no network because these lazy shits didn't bother to do it. There was no communications plan. There was no rehearsal. There was no radios. There was no coordination with local law enforcement. It has to be intentional at this point. What else could it be?
Still struggling with the same problems we had on 9/11.
No, we're not.
Officers using their own personal cell phones, not on the network that was made for emergency
Oh, my God. We had those networks all along. They've always had those radio networks. Stop being a fool.
personnel, which would have worked that day. Procurement. I want to talk about procurement because it's something that most people don't think about and it's not sexy. And I did tons of procurement when I was the...
All right, I'm sorry. Moskowitz is not sexy either. I'm going to wrap that up there, and I'm going to give you my closing comments here about this nonsense. This is beyond the pale, folks. I don't know what to tell you about this. It's just unbelievable. These people are just total asshats. So you got to see the explosion between Fallon and the acting director of the Secret Service, who is just a clown. Buddy, just a clown. I'm telling you. So, yeah, I agree with you, Sixth Sense. They will never admit their failures or their complicity in what happened. Their failures equal complicity. They are shameful individuals, and they ought to be disgraced beyond belief. The fact that they have no shame is what's so sad about this. They have no shame. They have no regrets whatsoever. But for windage and a fortuitous turn of the head, Donald Trump's head would have been splattered all over the place. As it is, an American was murdered. Others were grievously wounded. Why? Because the Secret Service was inept or complicit in the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. Pretty simple. It's one of the two. So admit that you're inept, explain why you're inept, give us the scalps of the people who are going to be sacked, and then show us who's going to be charged criminally for criminal negligence in this operation. Short of that, there will be no confidence whatsoever in the Secret Service ever again. Ever again. If I were Donald Trump, I would hire private security. I wouldn't trust the Secret Service for a heartbeat. They've proven they can't protect your life. 2 occasions in just a matter of weeks, you were nearly killed because of their ineptitude. At the golf course, the Doral Golf Course in Florida, who in their right mind doesn't walk the perimeter of the golf course? Particularly a golf course like that where it's clearly delineated and there's trees and bushes all around it, and no one walked it at least once. No drones overhead. Drones can be bought at Best Buy for a few $100s. I paid $800 for my drone in 2013 or 2014, 11 years ago, $800. That drone today is freaking got 1,000 times more capability. It stays in the air for nearly twice as long, and it's got much better optics. You can put FLIR on there. You can put infrared on there. You can put everything on it. I was limited to an optical camera back then, and I paid $800 for it. Now, you can get the damn things for $350 or get smaller ones that cost nothing. This is not rocket science. This is basic concepts. These morons are wire. By the way, I heard tonight, if this is true on television, that only 5% of federal employees are actually at work. Minus the military. Only 5% are actually at work. Only 5% of government employees in the federal government are actually taking their lard asses into work in the government building. We are paying for billions of square feet of office space, air conditioning, lights, plumbing, rent, space, fuel for people who are not there. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Wow. We don't need a broom. We need fire hoses. This is like when a plane comes in hot on an aircraft carrier in the Second World War and the wings come off of it and it catches fire. You put the fire out and you hose the deck off and you let the next plane come in. This is what's going on right now. We must clean. And I'm not talking about cleaning out, people from the House. Yeah, do that. That's on people when they vote, but that's every 2 years. We just missed that window. I'm talking about these bureaucrats, these permanent people, and also talking about these woke people in uniform too, and civilians over them. They need to go. They're the reason why we're $36 trillion in debt. They're the reason why we're not respected around the world. They're the reason why all our manufacturing has been shipped overseas. They're the reason why we have this stupidity of men dressing as women and playing in women's sports. And then people going around saying, oh, but you're transphobic. Oh, it's wrong. No, it's not. Biological males should not participate in female sports. It's dangerous. It's immoral. It's bankrupt. 7,000 federal buildings are currently empty yet fully maintained. Yep, I don't know where that figure came from, but I have no doubt that that's true. No doubt that's true. I just remember back when I was a private at basic training, and part of basic training is you do guard duty. It's part of your training. You learn how to do guard duty. You think it'd be simple, but you actually have to learn your general orders. You have to go out, do guard posts, and you salute, and yada, yada, and you snap attention, and then you recite your general orders, and you go out, and you guard your post. Well, in the middle of winter, at Fort Leonard Wood, I had to guard the motor pool, which was where they had all this engineering equipment and all these vehicles, like hundreds of vehicles, and there are probably 600 or 800 vehicles in this motor pool. It was huge, and I had to guard it. Think about that. Crazy stuff. All true spoken words. Yep. Okay, made the headlines last week. I didn't know that. Yeah, anyway, they all need to get back to work or find a new job in the private sector. Yep. This country has lost its way. We had something known as a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant work ethic, which wasn't white, it wasn't Anglo-Saxon, it wasn't Protestant, it was a work ethic, but it applied to all hardworking Americans at one point in this country. We've become a country of sloth and gluttony. Lazy people who have an entitlement mentality and pigs at the trough. My turn to eat. People are unwilling to sacrifice anything for the greater good, except for people in uniform, firefighters, and law enforcement officials. No one else sacrifices. Almost no one else sacrifices. Anyway. All right, folks, I'm going to wrap it up here. Nearly an hour. There you have it. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. And feel free to leave a comment behind. And be sure to hit the like button if you don't mind. I'd really appreciate that. We've had a few people tune in during the stream. No super chats, no new members. Trying to arrest the decline. This channel grew by 1,600 subscribers, and now they're taking them away again. So typical. That's so brutal what they do to this channel. But we're not going to give up. Thanks for being here, folks. Appreciate it. Have a good night. It's almost midnight here. I'm going to go back to watching Gold Rush and the idiots from 14 seasons ago on that show, that reality show. There's some really stupid people on there. They're really making me hate them with their stupidity. Anyway, folks, thanks a lot. God bless. And I'll talk more about this on my other channel tomorrow. Wow, this is just crazy. I mean, these people are just unbelievable. Have a good night. Thanks for being here. And where is my closing video? There we go. That's the one right there. Cheers.